Hi, this is Jason Laux, the 7-Day Sale Guy, and in this video I'm going to share with you how you can sell houses fast in this economy. And for the 9 other videos, a free live teleseminar training that we do on a regular basis, and a free training on CD, just visit my website at www.7dayprofitmachine.com. Now let me talk a little bit about Jedi mind tricks. And this is one of those things that I get really, it's tough for me to share this with people. And the reason is because after doing this for so many years, a lot of this stuff I just sort of do it and I don't really consciously think about it. I just know if I want to be persuasive, I have to do this, that, or the other thing, okay? And I talked about one already. That's anchoring. So anchoring is the process I talked about just a minute ago of creating a point of difference, at least 2 points of difference. So I said in this right here, I say a point of difference. You never want a point of difference, okay? You want at least 2 points of difference so that they don't see this house, your house, in the same light as the other houses. Then you need to lead them to buy from you, okay? And, there's a lot of different ways we can lead them, and talk about some right here. Now, one of the techniques we use for getting them to listen to what we say and to be willing to go through our buying process, meaning work with our mortgage broker, set up a closing date the way we like it, etc., okay? And, of course, it's up to you whether you want to do it this way, but I really like this. One of the things we use is called bouncing. And when I learned this technique called bouncing, I used to work at a company called GNC, the vitamin store. And GNC has a policy that if there's one employee in the store and there's one customer, that employee should work one-on-one with the customer, not just sit by the register and wait for the person to bring up their stuff. And what I noticed is, by standing there and answering questions, even if they were the most mundane of questions, like, people would walk in and say, do you have vitamin C? And I would be like, sure, I'll take you right to it. And I'd walk them right over to the vitamin C, and then they would, look at the vitamin C, and then they'd say, hey, I see 5 different kinds of vitamin C here. What's the difference? I'd answer their question. I'm not even selling the person. I'm just telling them the benefits of the different choices, okay? What we found was, and what GNC found, was that the average sale was almost 50% higher just because the customer felt catered to or whatever, and they didn't really know why it was. Well, what's happening is this little thing called time compression, and it's a persuasion technique, time compression, where when you've known somebody for years, the way that you remember them is different. You remember them in a kind of a nice way. Now think about this. There are people that you've met 3 or 4 or 5 times, 3 or 4 or 5 different times over the course of maybe, 5, 6, 10, 20 years, and you feel like you're really good friends with this person, even though each of those 3, 4, 5 times that you met them, you guys weren't really great friends. But what happens is you feel like you've known them for 20 years, when truth is you kind of knew them 20 years ago. Make sense? So what happens with this time compression thing is by moving from place to place, even within the same venue, even within the same room, okay? But mostly I'm talking about within the same house. If you open the door and you say, hi, how you doing? Sign in over here, and you walk them from there and you say, here, let me give you the tour of the house, okay? And you show them one room, you show them the bathroom, you show them the kitchen, you show them the next room, you show them the family room, you show them the bedroom. By the time you get back, okay, to where you guys are going to either sit down at the table and talk turkey, or they're going to sign a bid sheet or whatever, you've instilled in them a sense of unity because you and them have been to so many different places. Now, of course, those places are not that big. I mean, it'd be nice if we could go, to 5 totally different locations with each buyer, but it's just not possible. But we can go to, 5 or 10 slightly different locations, like, hey, now we're in the backyard, now we're in the second bathroom, okay? And that instills in them a sense that they've known you longer than they actually have known you, okay? Just like if you've known somebody for many years, even though you weren't close, you might feel like you've been friends forever, even though you haven't really been friends, you've just known them forever, okay? And we're compressing that, we've been 5 places together thing down to, a small amount of time. We're compressing the years it would take you to know someone that long down to just a little bit of time, so they feel just a little bit like they know you and that they trust you, okay? Now, a third technique is what we call decoying, and decoying is having one offer, property, etc. they definitely don't want to guide them to the offer that you do want them to make. So very often I'll be talking to a buyer, and the buyer will say, well, I'm pre-approved, and I'm ready to close on this deal. And you can simply make them an offer they don't want to help them choose the offer that you do want to make them. So let's say they're pre-approved and they're ready to close and they want to buy a house and they're interested in this house. I'll say, well, we could sell the house to you in one of three ways, and if you want, we can sit down and talk about the details if that's something that's interesting to you. And they'll say, okay, let's talk details. Say, well, we have one way we could do it, and that is, we could sell you the house for, I'm going to make up a number here, so don't freak out at me if this sounds expensive or if this sounds cheap. It's just the part of the country you live in, okay? So we're going to sell you this house for $250,000, and you can pay all your own closing costs, all your own everything, and do your own down payment, work with your own mortgage broker, etc., etc., etc. And you pay your side, and that's how it goes, okay? Or, if you want, you can use our mortgage broker, and we'll pay all the closing costs. Or, if you really want, we'll sell you the house via lease option, and you can move in and rent it for 6 to 12 months before you actually purchase it. Whichever way you want to do it. Now, here's what happens. You might think, well, they already just wanted to buy it on their own and use their own mortgage broker, so they don't even care about my offer. But here's what happens. Which sounds better to you? Buy it and pay full price, or buy it and we'll pay your closing costs. All right? And what happens is, just having that little distinction, they know they don't want to lease option it from you, okay? But in order to make the decision to go ahead and buy, what I'm telling them is, here's this one decision you really don't want, and here's this other decision that you know is better than your first decision. So they go ahead and grab, all right, we'll buy it and we'll use your mortgage broker, because it's a better choice for them than buy it and pay their own closing costs. Make sense? So I'm helping guide them to the choice I want by giving them a choice they don't want. All right, and there's some subtle nuances to that. There's ways to do that really well, but just understand that you might even just have a decoy offer. You could say, well, we're hoping to sell this house for $250,000. We're asking $249,900, whatever the nice way of saying $250,000. Here's another house you could buy for $270,000. It's the exact same square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms. Remember, we're using the negative version. We're saying, look, we've already cut the price $20,000. Even though that house might be listed for that price, it's not necessarily selling for that price, okay? So then we say, you have two choices basically. You could buy our house for $250,000 or you could buy the exact same house for $270,000. Which would you prefer? And the human mind actually will work in a process where it says, well, I don't want to pay more. Why would I want the other house for more? So I'll take this one for $250,000. And the third choice, not buy it at all, is much less likely to be taken. Make sense? So if you give them two choices, buy my house for $250,000 or buy no house, it's very easy for them to say buy no house. If you say buy this house for $270,000, buy the same basic house for $250,000, or buy no house, obviously $250,000 is a better choice than $270,000, and therefore it's probably a better choice than no house. And it's really messed up psychology, but it works great. Okay, that's called decoying. Now another thing is called herding, and herding is a little bit difficult to understand, but understand that having them follow you and others to make small decisions and let them follow themselves to make large decisions. So there's two different types of herding. One is herding where they do something because they see other people do it. And when you can have event style marketing, right, where you have many people looking at the house all at once, which is my favorite way to sell houses, no matter whether it's wholesale, retail, lease option or three-step, I always like to use event style marketing. If they walk in the door and you say, here, sign your name here, and they do, and then you say, let me give you the tour, and they say, okay, great. And that's small decisions, and by agreeing to those small decisions, they're psychologically committing themselves to follow you on larger decisions. Now, obviously, it's not going to work 100% of the time with everybody, okay? And if they're committed already to buying a house and they know what they want to pay for it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then they've already committed to themselves to make a larger buying decision, and now you just need to guide them into making that decision for your house, okay? So there's two different kinds of herding. When you get them to say, follow you and do things your way a couple of different times, and that way they're more likely to do things your way through the entire buying process, or when they themselves have already made a decision and you're really just asking them to be congruent, to stick with the decision they already made and make that decision for your house, okay? So let's talk about how to use those to present your houses to sell faster for higher prices. Hi, Jason Laux again, and if you like this video, you're going to love the rest of the series. For the other 9 videos, a free live teleseminar training that we do on a regular basis, and a free training on CD, just visit my website, www.7dayprofitmachine.com. I'll see you there.